attending this seminar. Selamat pagi, good morning everyone. Yeah, this seminar delivered with Christopher Joll from New Zealand actually, but he teach in Chulalongkorn University, right? Research, okay. So, my name is Abdullah Maulani, and it's my distinct pleasure to be your moderator for today's seminar on behalf PPIM UIN Jakarta. I thank you very much to be here. So, we gathered today for a session dedicated to Muslims in Thailand, Bibliography and Biography, or MITBB project. So this project goes beyond merely listing publications. It meticulously curates both bibliographical data on English language scholarship and biographical insights in influential Malay ulama from Southern region. Sebelumnya saya terima kasih ke teman-teman sudah hadir di seminar kali ini. Kita punya narasumber yang luar biasa, yaitu Christopher Mustafa Joll dari Chulalongkorn University. Nah, they are also my students in my department. So, before we proceed to core presentation on the MITB project, it's a great honor to invite the Director of Research of PPIM UIN Jakarta, Professor IIM Halimatus Adia, to deliver opening remarks. Please, your time is yours.
Thank you so much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to express my greater gratitude for Chris Mustafa for having us here to coming to our institution in Center for Study Islam and Society. It's a great honor for us to having you here, and we would like to hear more about your research on these issues. And then I think before we begin with the discussion, I will give a brief or short introductions about our center. So our center established in 1995, but initially it was not center of research at the beginning. So it was initially some scholar from our university established a journal, Studia Islamica, that you already known up to now. So the journal Studia Islamica is the beginning or the initial seeds of how the centers began. So in general, our center focus on this research and study on Islam and Muslim society, initially in Indonesia, but also we try to broaden our perspective also on Southeast Asian Islams. So it's great honor to having you with the expertise on the issues of Muslim community in Thailand. And I think on behalf of PPIM, I really want to say thank you again, and then we are expecting to have interesting discussion with you and with the audience. Thank you so much. Let's begin our seminar by saying Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor IIM. So, Chris, actually, we can call you. Chris is a New Zealand religious anthropologist and historian whose research and publishing career over the past 25 years has concentrated upon Thailand's large and diverse Muslim minority. So he is also author of Muslim Merit Making in Thailand's Far South, published by Springer, and 30 journal articles and book chapters. Whilst Muslims scattered between Central and South Thailand have been his principal ethnographic subjects. His research interests are interdisciplinary: anthropology, linguistics, history, and Islamic studies, also interreligious, Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism, and transnational Thailand and Muslim majority Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean. So he also published 3 articles with Studia Islamica in 3 consecutive years, actually from 2020 until 2022. So the title of this seminar is the Muslim in Thailand Bibliography and Biography project. So the time is yours to start the presentation. Actually, you have 40 minutes. So it's enough for you.
Okay. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
If we were in New Zealand, we'd be saying kia ora or g'day, but we're in Indonesia, aren't we? It's lovely to be here. I have been a great admirer, an avid reader of Studia Islamica for many, many years. And I had the great privilege of meeting the famous Azrumadi Azra on a number of occasions at conferences, and was greatly, greatly saddened by him going faster than we would have wanted. I'll hop into it. What I'm wanting to do is I will use my time but not go over my time, because you might have come here to listen to me, but I've come here because I want to hear from you. The big part, there are many reasons for doing this project that I'm going to be speaking on, the Muslims in Thailand Bibliography and Biography project, and it is primarily this: to provide anyone with free access if they are wanting to do research in this part of the world. And so I will talk about the reasons why we need to be making these resources free, online, available to everyone. But I am here to hear from you as much as you are here to hear from me. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so very, very briefly, what I'm going to be doing today is I want to introduce our recently completed MITBB project. And I want to present analysis of the English language scholarship in the bibliographic portion, and I want to make some criticisms about the way that South Thailand has been studied since the beginning of the 20th century, the 21st century. And then I want to recount how the MITB has generated, how we've generated a range of biographical databases. So a bibliography is a list of books, information about books. A biography is information about people. Okay? So don't get confused, a bibliography and a biography. I want to talk about family networks, about ulama involved in halaqah in the Hijaz, as well as Bondok and Patani, as well as the output of kitab by individual authors and copyists. And then why we have made these freely available. And the final point is this, a very important point. One of my reasons for coming here today is to encourage and even recruit young Southeast Asian scholars to work with us in South Thailand, not for us, You understand? To work with someone is different to be working for someone, okay? So I am not some sort of colonial scholarly relic. We do things differently now. We work together. We look at others as potential collaborators, not competitors. Now, that's old. That's an old way of thinking. We don't do that. Okay, so those are the objectives, and so let's just pop in. Okay, so if you want to look at the project, that's the URL. You can do that in your own time. The Muslims in Thailand Bibliography and Biography project. Have a look around. The first part of the website, I will just very, very briefly summarize. So we have tagged about 1,800 publications, and we have limited ourselves to English scholarship. Okay, so there's others that are in Thai language, there's others written in Bahasa Malaysia, Bahasa Indonesia. We haven't included those. This is a project intended to encourage international scholars, and we are aware of, yes, anyway, so we've got, this is my summary of the different types of publications included. That give us the proportion of journal articles versus monographs, PhD thesis, MA thesis, conference papers, book chapters, as well as others. 1,800 publications. So this is an indication about I would argue that Thailand's Muslim minority is one of the most widely studied minorities, influenced by interests and obsessions in the study of violence and radicalism. So the bibliography part, we have a database of authors from A to Z. We've got a database on the total number of publications and when these publications were published. And I'm going to be returning to this again later, and you can see that there is a spike, and we're going to be talking about this spike later. So this is by decade, and this is by year. And then what I did is I did a topical bibliography. And I won't go into all the details about the topics, but you'll see this is not a complete list of codes, but basically general surveys, locations within Thailand, periods, as well as topics. And not surprisingly, many of these publications are related to conflict studies. And these are pre-2004, before the amnesty with organisations like Pulo in the 1990s, and then analysis of violence post-2004, and studies that I've tagged as comparative historical analysis, comparing the conflict with Aceh, mainly Aceh and Mindanao. Which is a ridiculous comparison. It's like chalk and cheese. It's nonsense. Anyway, never mind. Okay, so let's just have a look at this. So this is an analysis of the number of incidences, shootings, bombings, from 2004 to now, with a summary of the way these have gone up and down over the decades, and now it's much, much lower. Now, I lived in Pattani for 10 years, and I shifted there in 2000, and I was there when this whole started, and I was there when it spiked in 2007. We had bombings and assassinations in our community, And this is an analysis of this period from 2004 to 2000. So this is an analysis that gives us an idea about how the publications went up and down and have incrementally gone down. These are an analysis of publications specifically analysing violence and the ways that these spiked in 2004 and are now a lot less. Another summary of this, just to make the point. Now, we won't have time to talk about this, but also on the website, and I encourage you to look at it. And I might actually add, I think some of you students should do a website exactly like this on Islam in Indonesia. And this is included. I have been a bit naughty. So what I've done is I've prepared from my EndNote program, I've exported an RIS file, and we've made this fully available, and when you download this RIS file and open it in EndNote or Zotero or Melody, RefWorks, you'll be able to open up the bibliography. It's all formatted. And in addition to that, we've included most, but not all, of these items on the Google Drive. Now, technically, this is not legal, okay? I think on the great and dreadful day when we meet our Creator, I'm not sure whether we are going to be asked about what we did with copyrighted material. Do not sell it, but make it available. So there is a problem. There is a problem now where young scholars are doing scholarship by algorithm. So if you are from a tariqat background, your algorithm is going to send you stuff on tariqat that is going to be supportive of that expression of tasawwuf. If you are from a Salafiyya background, the algorithm is going to be sending you other things. Now, the reason why we've got this bibliography up here is we need to resist this algorithm takeover. God has given you a brain. This is called authentic intelligence that is formed through hard work, routine, and discipline. We all depend, because we don't have access to a huge library database that costs your university hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, which will mean that your tuition fees are going to increase by thousands and thousands of dollars a year. You don't have that privilege. Now, that should not mean that you don't have access. We all are sent things through ResearchGate, academia.edu, Google Scholar, suggestions of things we may be interested. Now, that's great, but do not rely on that. Sorry, that's a bit of a rant. I'm very concerned about this. Okay. So that's the bibliographic part of the website, but really what I'm here to do today is to talk to you about the Muslims in Thailand biographies part of the website. So my analysis of the literature on Muslims in Thailand has identified topics that have been more than adequately done, and topics that have been, what I would say, overdone. Done and then redone and then done again and again and again. And research interested in violence, funded by people interested in peace studies, conflict studies, terrorism studies. These have led to an incredible ballooning of the quantity of papers analysing this important phenomenon, but at the same time has led to the neglect of some topics that have been done but not enough, and then a whole pile of topics that have completely been missed. Now, one of the topics which I'll be dealing with when we look at the biography part of the project is this. Included in our project is a map of Bondok schools that existed from the late 18th century until World War II, the incremental development and growth of Bondok networks in South Thailand. No one has done that. And yet, if I go to Deep South Watch, if I click on this, if I go to Deep South Watch, and you can do this when you get home, Deep South Watch, I can click on this map, and it will tell me in this place, in this village, how many Buddhists or Muslims have been shot, killed or injured, or have been involved in a bombing and have been injured or killed. I can do that for every village, every district, every province. I can choose, I want to see how many Buddhist females have been shot and killed. What districts? Amazing detail about the geography of violence. And yet, despite the large number of Bondok in South Thailand, there is no current database list of all the Bondok, all the madrasa, the Bondok that teach kitab, the Bondok that are now, the Hafizah, the Bondok that are connected with the Tabligh, the madrasas that are teaching national curriculum. This database does not exist. Why? Because we have a problem. We have a problem where research, the funding cart is before the research horse. This is an English idiom about confusing the things that are important with the things that are unimportant. When you put the cart before the horse, you are getting your priorities wrong. So, and this is related to the wider context that we are involved in this time and place where people are doing research only because they get the funding. And if they can't get, if they know they won't get funding for this research that really needs to be done, they are not going to apply. It won't get done because we want to do well. We want our wallets to be full, and we don't want to do good. Sometimes we have to decide, are we going to do good, or are we going to do well? It's very difficult to do good and to do well out of doing good, if that makes sense. Is everyone understand what I'm saying? Or have you never heard a New Zealander talk before in your life? If you need someone to translate for you, then that's just fine. Okay. So I love this cartoon. Isaac Newton struggles to write the economic impact section for his gravity proposal. The reviewers thought fieldwork in the Galapagos was a bit extravagant, so Darwin's travel budget got slashed. Anyway, so let's go to the biographical portion of this website. Now, this is very exciting. So I want to first and foremost acknowledge that my main motivation for doing this project was reading Francis Bradley's PhD thesis. It was about 500 pages long. Done at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. It contained this amazing, long, detailed, current biography, bibliography of Sheikh Daud Al-Fatani, of all of his publications, where they were copied, included lots of other information, genealogies about family members, and it ran to about 500 pages. Some of you may be aware of his book, Forging Islamic Power, and if you haven't, then I warmly encourage you to read that. And in addition to that, I've interacted with a range of other sources, and I won't take my time. This PowerPoint presentation, I'll turn it into a PDF and put it onto my website, and you can look at it if you're interested. But there's stuff on Bondok by a very famous local scholar called Hassan Madman, Pirayut Rahimullah. We've got some work done by the famous duo of Matheson and Hooker, and a number of other sources. Wider context, we have a number of important books that relate to similar topics, one of which you will know well, many of which you will know well, Michael Luffin's work, stuff done on Kelantan, recent works done on charm networks, and the biographical portion of the website concentrates on 5 themes that are interconnected. And this is a big part of what we are wanting to do, to document the connections. It is common for you, when you are reading an analysis of a book or an author, to be given a list of names and dates, and you really don't know how to put those in context. Do you agree? Do you agree? Okay, so in Indonesia, we obviously don't answer. So all of these are related. So first of all, we've done an analysis of the range of the 3 most influential families that produced Sheikh Daud Al-Fatani. How many of you have heard about Sheikh Daud Al-Fatani? Sheikh Daud? Anyone? Okay, so how many have heard of Sheikh Ahmad Al-Fatani? Anyone? Okay, so that's fine, that's fine. So these very, very well-known individuals there were 3 families that most of the most prolific writers of Kitab were connected to, from the late 1700s and through till the mid-late 1800s, the 19th century. So in addition to families, a section of the bibliography documents individual ulama. And this documentation begins with a timeline that places that individual into context. Whereabouts, when was he born? When did he die? Who were his contemporaries? Who were his elders? Who followed him? And we have concentrated on, we've got about 10 that we have provided the most detailed information about. Who were their students? Who was their father? Who was their mother? Who was their students? Who were their contemporaries? Who were their elders? Were they authors of Kitab? Which Kitab? Were they involved in teaching in a Bondok? Which Bondok? Did they establish their own Bondok? And the names and the dates of those things. So families and then individual alim. So this is an example of one of the timelines that we've produced. And I don't expect you to recognize all of these names. If you were to begin interested in the development of Kitab Jawi from specifically the east coast of the peninsula, these will be some of the names that you will encounter. And in addition to families and ulama, we have taken the time to document, and I'll be showing some of the maps a bit later on. What we've done is we've because of the neglect of Patani's religious geography, because there's funding for documenting Bhutanese geography of violence, we've taken upon ourselves to document the different bondok. Where were these located? When were they established? Who established them? And which new bondok were connected with existing bondok? And I'll make some observations about exactly where these developed and when, which gives us, again, an understanding of context. So if we're philologists, if we're interested in texts, texts are important. I'm not a philologist. As a religious historian and anthropologist, I'm interested in context. So this is the main way that I have proposed to collaborate with people with specific skills and interests in texts. In addition to families, in addition to individual alim, in addition to bondok, another data set relates to kitab, and I'll be showing you examples of some of the tables we've prepared. Now, we haven't included the PDFs of the copies of these kitab that we have begun working on. We need to do this properly, and because we work with others, they don't work for us. The people that we work with need to decide whether they are willing to share what they have done. Very, very important. So I'll show you some of the analysis that we've done on these kitab. In addition to the kitab, another related issue, which is tremendously important and often overlooked. We've got information, we have curated, we've organized, we've placed into tables and graphs about who copied specific titles, how many copies of a specific title was copied, who copied them, where was it copied, and when was it copied. Now, why is this, why are tables like this important? Tables like this are important because this gives us an idea about what the most popular kitab were, which these days we have impact factors. We can see on a range of websites, Scopus and World of Science and Google Scholar and academia.edu and ResearchGate, we can see how many people have downloaded our work, how many pages of these works have been read. But in the 18th century, we weren't able to do that. We can approximate the importance of specific kitab by looking at how many times, by how many individuals was this kitab handwritten and copied and disseminated. Are very important. So we've got a number of different. We've also got some pictures. We've tried to collate some of the pictures of different alim, because we are visual. We are visual. God has made us in a way that if we see something visual, it helps us learn something conceptual. We're all wired like that. And we are wanting to create something which is beautiful, which is full of images. So in terms of the genealogies, we've got a series of tables. Each network, we've got the generations, and who married who, and not a complete list because this would be maybe counterproductive, but these are some examples of some of the materials that are uploaded and available for you for free. Something that I'm particularly pleased about is the maps that we've done of the bondok network And in addition to providing details of place where these were, we have also got details of time. So we've got a timeline which helps explain about where the oldest Bondok were, and significantly, the oldest Bondok in Patani were the Bondok which were furthest away from the former capital of Patani, which was invaded and largely destroyed in 1786. So one of the oldest Bondok is Bondok Pobot, and you can see how far away that is. Similarly, the second oldest Bondok is again far from the capital. And then incrementally, over the decades that followed, others began to appear, and I'll be telling you a bit about the story about how they appeared. Now, you will stop me when I've gone over time here. I've forgotten to take a note of this. Okay, so in addition to some pictures and some maps, something which I have enjoyed doing and will continue to do more is producing these timelines. I've studied a range of tarikat in Thailand, and so I've had to read a number of hagiographies of specific sheikh, murshid. And if you've done similar work, you know we often read, this person was inducted, we analyse silsila, yeah? So there was this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, this person. Now this is great. This is great. But we need to know who these people were, and it's often helpful that we know about when these people were alive, so that we have a train of transmission. So whether it's the development of Bondok, whether it's the age of the individual alim, whether it's the date that a kitab is published, where this was published, what edition was published in the Hijaz, which edition was published in Mesir, which edition was published in Singapore, Surabaya, Penang. If we have timelines, we have an idea of how these developed over time. And again, what is our reason for doing this? Our reason for doing this is to help who? Do we need help? We don't need help. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because we want to help you. And we're not going to go to Brill and do a book proposal and produce a book that's going to cost €100 that maybe the university will be able to buy. And if they do buy it, it'll be in the library, and then you'll have to get organised, and you'll all have to find a bit of money to borrow the book and to run out of the university and to quickly photocopy it and then to get it back in there, and then eventually someone's going to steal it. Is that right? That's what happens here? It happens in Thailand. Is that right? No, it doesn't happen here. No. So these resources really are here to help you. Another way in which we're wanting to help, not necessarily you, but people like you. People who understand that in order for us to move confidently into the future, we need to know our past. We need to know our past because we want to replicate the successes in the past, and we want to avoid the failures in the past. Has everything that has happened in Indonesia been a failure? No, there have been successes. We need to learn from the successes in the past as well as the failures. Okay, so we've got a range of tables, and we're running out of time to give you details about what these include. But basically, we've got master lists of everything, every individual, every author, and all of his titles. Some of them are not dated, which complicates things. And then we've turned that round. Then we've got individual publications, and then we've got the dates about where they were published and when. And we've done that kind of analysis in a number of ways, in a range of tables, but mainly about kitab, but also about individual scholars. Okay, so we have a number of hopes and plans for the future of the MITBB. So I've actually, before coming here just a few days ago, I began to re-edit some of the genealogies, which bring the three families together. As you know, if you've studied influential scholars from Indonesia, you know how important the family networks are, because cousins are influential families who have got endowments, want to keep those endowments within the family, so we've got cousins marrying each other. But we've also documented, you know, people who marry outside those networks. So we've done some editing of these things. Again, the future, I think we do need to emphasize contextualizing the careers of the most influential alim, making sure that we know who was who and when. And this has helped us actually isolate some individuals that have been largely overlooked. One of the other concerns I have about the study of Muslims in Thailand, which may be similar to those in Indonesia, is that the same individuals get studied again and again and again and again. Yeah? So in Thailand, Sheikh Daud Al-Fatani, Sheikh Ahmad Al-Fatani. So what about Duan Minau or Dot Minau? What about Nik De Patani? What about Nik Makijil? Yeah? Okay. So when I was first reading about, I mean, how many times has Hamza Al-Fansuri been analysed? How many times? Yeah? Nuruddin Al-Raniri, how many times? And we could go on, and we could go on, and we could go on. So, those of you who are here, why don't you think about doing something different? Why don't you do something new? Okay, attention to the generations again. This is a related point. So this is one of the tables that we've produced, showing us the generational network from the late 18th century. This is something that I just did a couple of days ago, which I want to talk to you about, inshallah, later on. Again, revealing the production of kitab. Now, there are many kitab that we don't have dates for, so this is not a complete list, but us documenting the decades in which kitab were produced. And so here we see Sheikh Daud Al-Fatani. He died in 1847, and we see a gap here, and we don't see another work with his name until 1876, and that corresponds to when the editing career of Sheikh Ahmad Al-Fatani began. But in between then, we see these other individuals beginning to write and beginning to publish. So I think that documenting the decades that kitab were produced in is very important. And quantifying these, writing these down by decade, by individual, who was doing what when. This is, again, another example of the analysis that we've done. So this is a table of the 20 most prolific published Batani ulama. So Sheikh Ahmad Al-Fatani published 70 kitab. Sheikh Daud Al-Fatani 49 kitab. And then others related to his network after that. And again, we think there is the need for more work done on copyists. And this point is important because of the project that you are all involved in, the Dream C project. I'm not saying that studying published printed material is not important, but these handwritten documents are very, very important. And I think that we are certain that when I'm not exaggerating to say that almost once a month I get a phone call from someone. They've gone to a bondok, they've got to know this babo has showed them a cupboard full of manuscripts that no one has seen and documented. And so we need to have those details. I think I'm out of time. Yeah, that's about 45 minutes. And so I'm just going to thank you for your attention, and I hope that you understood my New Zealand accent.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for wonderful presentation. Give you applause for Christopher M. Joll. So the next session is for those who have questions. Please raise your hand and introduce yourself. Ada yang bertanya atau ada yang didiskusikan? Tidak apa-apa pakai bahasa Indonesia juga boleh, nanti diterjemahkan. Yes, please, silakan.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Perkenalkan, nama saya Ahmad Farusaini dari Tarjamah.
Ya.
Izin bertanya, apa rencana jangka panjang proyek ini? Misalnya perluasan ke negeri ASEAN lainnya.
Okay. So the question is, what's your the next plan, long-term plan? Is this any extension for another Southeast Asian countries in terms of Muslim area?
No.
No.
Thank you for your question. And no, we will be seeking to develop this. We can develop it in a number of directions. We will explore ways of uploading and making available some of the kitab that we have referenced. We are going to expand our analysis of Bondot networks a wider circumference around Patani, including the districts of Mayo and Saiburi. We are going to, there are some kitab by some of the people in this network. We know that there are copies. We need to isolate those copies. We need to identify those copies. We're wanting to begin to train the network of local researchers that are teaching in Tadika, that are teaching in Pesantren, local. Our emphasis in the future is to be training local researchers. If some of those, we may also train undergraduate students, master's students, PhD students, but I need to say this. In South Thailand, it is very rare that you find in a state university someone with Jawi language skills at a level and Arabic language skills at a level that they can do this sort of research. And because of that, we may in the future be just not ignoring local universities, but emphasising working with people with a background in local Pesantren. And this is related to what I said about funding. There is a very unpleasant attitude that some professional researchers have about working with local researchers. You know, he hasn't studied. Well, actually, he has studied, but he knows these kitab very, very well. And so we're not going to go and do anything anywhere else. What we're wanting to do is we're going to go deeper on some topics, and then we're going to go wider on others, and we are going to emphasize ways that we can be collaborating and working with as many other people as possible.
Okay. Anyone? Yeah, Prof. Im, please.
My question is not really related to the bibliography and the biography. Maybe it's more on the social context. So I'm just wondering, would you explore more to us? In your finding, you said that there were 3 influential families in Muslim Thailand. So how did you decide that these, or what indicators that you consider that these 3 families considered as the most influential families in Muslim in Thailand? That's the first. And the second one, looking at to the recent or contemporary era of Muslim in Thailand, how do you see the influence of this family up to the recent era? Like in the context of, for example, in the context of Indonesia, religious authority now is no longer stick on like your religious education background, your pondok, but sometimes the media, the role of media constructed the new forms of religious authority. So I'm just wondering how these families influence, these 3 families influence in more recent contexts, whether they're still influential in the context of a Muslim community in Thailand, or maybe something different happened in the context of recent era.
Okay,
Thank you.
That's a great question. So the first answer is that we have unashamedly kind of the main starting point for the main starting point was Bradley's encyclopedic analysis. And you will know this, but you know, when you only read the monograph and not the PhD thesis, often you just miss just this enormous, curated, detailed collection of data. Now, I'm confident that no one else has gone through he's got this genealogy in an appendix at the back of his PhD thesis, and all I did was transcribe the main contents of that into a table that eventually, just last week actually, before coming here, I've just produced this document. And so everyone has to start somewhere, and we have at multiple occasions cited the way that we are developing some of the work that Francis Bradley has done. Now, Francis has moved on from Botany Studies. He's now teaching in New York, and he writes about jazz. I contacted him to say what I'm doing with his work, and I haven't heard from him, so that's fine. He's doing other things. So that's the answer, the first answer to the question. Okay, so interestingly, if you know about Botany, you probably have heard the name of Haji Sulong. Haji Sulong was one of the many alim who returned to Southeast Asia in the 1920s after the Wahhabia takeover of the holy cities. And if we look at religious developments in Thailand, we see in the 1920s this explosion of tariqat, of different reformist and reform movements, and he came back as one of the many people influenced by what was going on in Kelantan. His father-in-law, his second wife was the Mufti of Kelantan, and he established one of the first modernist madrasa in Patani, and became a political activist and was disappeared in 1954. So some of the families that I've studied, they went to the Hijaz and they stayed there. And they taught in Halaqah, they produced Kitab Jawi there, and they stayed there. In these Halaqah in the Hijaz, they hosted the steady stream of younger scholars, some of which would have been around your age, who had made the trip to perform the Hajj and to stay there and to teach in Halaqah, but wanted to teach with someone who not only spoke Malay, but Gecek Logat Taning, spoke the local dialect. This family, Haji Sulong's family, who's connected to this network, whose grandfather was the famous Tuan Minau, who wrote, I think, 8 kitab, very, very influential. Martin van Bruin says that he was an Ahmadi Idrisiya, but I've seen no evidence of that. He became a politician. His family all became senators. Some families, the Bondok closes. As you know, I'm sure it's the same in Indonesia. Some Besantinan, they stay after the Kiai passes away. His son-in-law usually takes over. Others, new leader, financial problems with competitors. So it's a very interesting question that you've asked, and I hope that I've answered it for you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And anyone? Yeah, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Nama saya Syahrul Azim. Izin bertanya, apa tantangan utama dalam mengumpulkan data bibliografi dan biografi Muslim di Thailand? Terima kasih.
Okay, so his question is, what your biggest challenge to documenting Southern Thailand Muslim bibliography?
That's a great question. So a number of challenges. First of all, there are a lot of publications, and so. But that's okay. You just have to have and I'll show you how I do it. I've got a program. I don't know whether you've ever heard of EndNote, but I use this program, and there I have the MITBB, and I can click on how many dissertations there are. The total number is 1,851. Number of journal articles. The stuff about Kitab. So you use the right software, not so difficult, but it's easy to maintain now, but to do it the first time is a lot of work. And again, I'm doing this because you could do a number of things. You could use the software that I've used, and I can explain how to use it, and you can do exactly the same for the topics that you're interested in. But the most important thing is this, that you not only do this yourself, but after that, you make it available for others. Yeah? Yeah. So the biggest problem, so this is a good question you've asked, a very good question. The biggest problem is thinking about how to tag or code these books. Because as you know, if you are familiar with Kitab, you'll know there's a bit of tasawwuf, there's a bit of akidah, there's a surudin. And so what do I tag it as? Do I tag it as everything? So tagging, when you've got 1,851, it's difficult sometimes to know how to tag books. Yeah, so thank you for your question.
So, thank you. And anyone, please? We have 10 minutes left. Professor Oman.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Chris, for your great presentation. Of course, I am personally very interested with the subject of Patani research, Muslim in Patani, because I do believe that there are many manuscripts there, Arabic, Malay, of course, manuscript, not studied, I think, and even not preserved, not digitized, let's say. So, your project about MITBB, yeah, it's very important for others, for us, who specializing on the Southeast Asian Islamic studies, because sometimes we as researchers, even especially students, facing obstacles to access, even to come to Patani. Maybe in the last years ago, maybe because of the security reason, maybe, I'm not so sure now. So please, maybe could you tell us about the current situation of the coming and accessing and doing research there? Is it no problem for us, for example? And that's one, my first question. The second one is, in terms of our coming project of DreamSea, digitizing manuscript in Southeast Asia, we are thinking to expand our missions to Thailand, of course, Southern Thailand, particularly in Patani. Thanks to your local networks in Patani in particular and in Thailand, I do believe that you already identified the potential location. So could you please tell us about the potential collection of manuscript, maybe still need to be and potential to be digitized in cooperation with DreamSea? Of course, we need permission to not only digitizing, but also we need permission to put them online later after digitization. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so in terms of safety, yeah, so we have a number of mutual friends, including Professor Michael Fina, and I had the privilege of being one of the people who gave him advice about people in the South to work with. And so one of the great privileges, and I would say responsibilities, because with privilege comes responsibility. If you're a person of privilege, you've got a wealthy background, you have a responsibility to be helping those with less privilege than you. So with privilege comes responsibility. So it was a joy for me when Michael contacted me saying his Maritime Asia Heritage Survey was expanding and he needed some, he requested some operational advice. I was able to identify people that he should be in contact with. And as we know, when we do research, the most important decisions you make are the people that you work with and the people you avoid. Sometimes you need to know who you don't contact. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, so what are the tragedies? There are so many tragedies that are happening in the world. All of us have been watching the tragedy, the nightmare of Gaza. And many of us were following all the developments in Indonesia in the late 1990s with concern, and you've been doing the same with South Thailand for over 20 years now, yeah. Okay. So one of the many tragedies of this conflict is that people no longer do research there unless it is about the violence. So there is only one ethnographic study of rural traditional Malay practice in South Thailand over the last 25 years. One PhD over 25 years in rural South Thailand. Now, I lived in town and I was interested in urban Malayness, bilingualism, modernism. How do these Muslims, how do they learn both languages, Thai and Malay? How do they interact with the Salafiyah activists? How are they influenced by the Tabligh? How do they continue to be involved in the traditions? Yeah. And I'm confident that I am the only person, and I began to do research in villages in South Thailand after I actually shifted out of there in 2010. Me and my students are the only people doing research amongst conservative, traditional Malay-speaking communities in South Thailand, because a lot of people can't be bothered learning the local dialect. Yeah, so there is enormous opportunity for, and I'm going to say specifically for people from Indonesia. Kelantan Jawi literacy there is still pretty good, but if you have a Pondok Pesantren background, you have the skills that are able to do this sort of research. So safety is no concern. We have got people on the ground, and it is common, okay, in that village, there are people, we don't know them, we know that they are a big problem with the local BRN commanders, they don't listen to anyone, they're troublemakers, don't go there because we don't know anyone. But we can confidently say, there is no way we would invite you to work in a place that wasn't safe. But we have a team of people who can go. Now, how do I get this onto that screen? What do I do? What do I do? Oh dear, I'm so useless. This one, and I go, I go change, do I? So do I go entire screen? Start mirroring. Okay, so Doctor, only the other day I got this WhatsApp message. I got this WhatsApp message from one of my research collaborators. This is the great-great-great-grandson of Wan Musa, who was the Mufti of Kelantan early 20th century. His father was Tuan Tabal, yeah? Ahmadi Idrisiya Silsila. So this guy has contacted him saying this is the handwritten copy of a book by Sheikh Ahmad ibn Idris that was hand transcribed in 1917. And there are other books there as well. And this is just one of a number of people who contact me and they say, you know, we've heard that there's a cupboard of kitab from the sheikh who died in 1930s and no one knows what to do with it and it's beginning to be eaten. So there's just piles of opportunities, Doctor. Yeah, and this is why I'm so happy to be here, because... Sorry? Yeah, this is 1917, this was copied. But you know, we've got manuscripts. I'm aware of manuscripts. Further north, up in Chaya, north of Nakhon Tamarat, we're in Surat Thani. We're aware of Jawi manuscripts in central Thailand amongst Malay communities out east Bangkok. I've got handwritten Jawi manuscripts. Yeah. Yeah, lots of work to do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone? One last question, please. Yeah, please.
Hello, my name is Najma Nawirato Aulia. I am a student of Translation Studies at UIN Jakarta UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta. I am still learning English, so please excuse me if I make mistake. Thank you for the presentation. I would like to ask if there any specific difference between the pondok in southern Thailand and the pondok in other parts of the Malay world. Thank you.
Okay, good question. Okay, so pondok, I'm pretty sure it's like this in Indonesia. Pondok are always changing. Always changing. Okay, so there's pondok that many years ago, so the government had a campaign. We're wanting to register traditional pondok pesantren. You've got to register with the government. You've got to be teaching some of the national curriculum. So some people refuse to register and they close their pondok. So there are pondok that become madrasah. There are some pondok that no longer teach kitab because people haven't studied that tradition. So the big phenomenon now is that many pondok that used to teach kitab, they're becoming pondok hafizah. Now some of those pondok they're now members of the Tablighi network, and so they are specifically teaching not only the kitab that the Tablighi teach, but also the Tablighi's method of teaching Hafiz, yeah? So pondok are always changing. Is that right? So this is the problem when you have foreign scholars that have never actually lived for a long time, long enough to see these changes. They kind of base their understanding on having read some book which was written it was published in the 1990s, based on fieldwork in the 1980s. And so they're stuck in this time warp. And this is why, and again, I'm speaking as a religious anthropologist as well as a religious historian. And historians and anthropologists, we have a lot of things in common. We have to stick with what we have seen. And we have to assess the quality of the sources that we have. And the big problem throughout Southeast Asia is students like you not being willing to do the field work, not being willing to go and actually live in a community that you've never lived before, and to actually probably learn a language that you've never learnt before. And I love the way that you are using your English. Let's not forget, why are we here? We're here to have fun. Okay? That's why we're at university. We are here to have fun. This is why we're learning. This is why we read books, we learn about new concepts, and we learn new languages. We must not forget that. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Your statement before that there is a changes in the pondok in Thailand where they no longer learn kitab. We call it kitab kuning in Indonesia.
Kitab kuning,
pondok, but shifting into tahfiz.
Tahfiz.
Yeah. What do you think the driving forces of this shifting in the context of Muslim in Thailand?
Okay. So there's a number of things going on. So I am not Superman. Okay, I don't know everything about everything. Okay, so this is just on the basis of my observations. There's a number of things going on. First of all, the lack of ustad able to teach these kitab. Yeah, so that is one issue. So the second issue is that there is some very, very strong drivers from amongst Muslim parents. They are very, very concerned about the co-option of the religious potency and power associated with being Hafiz or Hafizah in ways that not only benefit their children, but the ways in which children are not soleh, are able to benefit the wider family. And the other is this: if you are wanting to become an imam and to be in a position of religious authority, having been a hafiz is going to be far more important to you than having memorized Sheikh Ahmad's translation of Imam al-Ghazali.
Is there ideological affiliation changing?
Okay, so
I mean, let's say from the changing from, let's say, how to say, Ash'ari changing to Salafism.
yeah. I mean, as you know, throughout the Muslim world. Okay, so I don't know Indonesia as well as I would like to, but we all know the family resemblances of changes in the religious geography, confessional politics. We know this is just the latest chapter of this sort of competition. Sometimes a clash, sometimes a compromise. It looked different in West Sumatra in the 19th century. It took another shape in Aceh in the 17th century. In terms of, you talked about the Salafiyya influence. Okay, so largely in South Thailand, Salafiyya influence is largely, it is impacting middle to upper middle class urban communities who have no Jawi background, no Jawi skills, no interest in mazhab. They kind of profile Salafiyya inspired schools to be more cosmopolitan, to be less traditional. They don't want to go to a bondok and to have to sleep in a hut and to have to listen to an old guy talk about issues addressed in books that are not relevant to their life, you know. So there is a big, which is another way of saying that these changes in terms of curriculum and these changes in terms of institution are deeply related to societal changes. Muslim communities that are Thai speaking now, Muslim communities that are comfortably bilingual in Thai and Malay, those that are more rural, that are wanting to avoid losing their Malay language skills, and that is related to class and not a widely documented phenomenon, but yeah, I think that's enough about that. I might be going into too much detail, but I think that I hope on the basis of what I've just said, that you'll be able to see connections between some of those dynamics in South Thailand with what is going on in Indonesia. I'm hoping that would be the case. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, yeah.
Thank you, Chris, for wonderful presentation and answers. Please give applause again for Chris. And this is the end of the PPIM seminar. So thank you for attending seminar, and please follow us in our social media, PPIM UIN Jakarta. Also, this seminar recorded in our YouTube platform. If you want, for those who rewatch or maybe just curious what Chris said before, please watch us in YouTube also. So thank you again for Chris for coming in PPIM. And let's wrap up our seminar with Hamdalah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Also apologize for any inconvenience. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.